Let's take a look at leadership styles. Whether you are one or the other, or somewhere in between, it is important to recognize your personal style of leadership. This style reflects how others respond to you, how they respond to your work, and in the end, how effective you are as a leader. Each of us approaches leadership with a unique set of beliefs and attitudes about the nature of people and the nature of work. This is the basis for our philosophy of leadership. For example, some people are basically good and will happily work if given a chance. Others think that people are prone to be a bit lazy and need to be nudged to complete their work. These beliefs about people and work have a significant impact on an individual's leadership style and probably come into play in every aspect of a person's leadership. Douglas McGregor believed that managers need to understand their core assumptions about human nature and assess how these assumptions relate to their managerial practice. In particular, McGregor was interested in how managers view the motivations of workers and their attitudes towards work. He believed that understanding these motivations was central to knowing how to become an effective manager. To explain the ways that people approach workers, McGregor proposed two general theories, Theory X and Theory Y. McGregor believed that each of these theories provided viewpoints on human behavior and on leadership style. Theory X is made up of three assumptions about human nature and human behavior. Taken together, these assumptions represent a philosophy of leadership that many leaders exhibit to one degree or another. The first assumption is that the average person dislikes work and avoids it if possible. This assumption argues that people do not like work and, if given the chance, they choose not to do it. The second assumption is that people need to be directed and controlled. Since people naturally do not like work, management needs to set up a system of incentives and rewards to motivate work. The third assumption is that people want security, not responsibility. Because it's too difficult to set their own goals, workers want management to do it for them, to take care of them, and to make them feel safe. So, what does it mean if a person's personal leadership philosophy is similar to Theory X? It means these leaders have the tendency to view workers as lazy and uninterested in their work because they don't have value. As a result, Theory X leaders tend to be directive and controlling. They supervise followers closely and are quick to both praise and criticize them as they see fit. At times, these leaders remind workers of their goal or threaten them with punishment to persuade them to accomplish tasks. A Theory X leader sees his or her leadership role as instrumental in getting the job done. Theory X leaders also believe that it's their role to motivate followers because these workers have little self-motivation. Because of this belief, these leaders take on the responsibility for their followers' actions. From the Theory X perspective, it is clear that followers have a need for leadership. Theory Y is based on several specific assumptions about human nature and behavior. Taken together, the assumptions of Theory Y present a distinctly different perspective from the ideas set forth in Theory X. It's a perspective that can be observed to a degree in many leaders today. The first assumption is the average person does not inherently dislike work. Rather, this assumption suggests that people see work as satisfying and not as a punishment. In fact, given the chance, people are happy to work. The second assumption is that people will show responsibility and self-control towards goals in which they are committed. Theory Y suggests that people can and will make a conscious choice to work on their own. The third assumption is that in the proper environment, the average person learns to accept and seek responsibility. While Theory X argues that people lack ambition, Theory Y assumes that the average person is inherently resourceful. Theory Y argues that, given the opportunity, people will act independently, be productive, and engage in a wide range of goal-setting and creative problem-solving activity. Whether a person's philosophy is similar to Theory X or similar to Theory Y, it affects their style of leadership. The challenge is to understand the philosophical underpinnings of your own leadership style. In many ways, the authoritarian leadership style is very similar to Theory X. For example, authoritarian leaders perceive followers as needing direction. The authoritarian leader needs to control followers and what they do. Authoritarian leaders emphasize that they're in charge, exerting influence and control over group members. They determine tasks and procedures for group members, but they remain aloof from participating in group discussion. Authoritarian leaders do not encourage communication among group members. Instead, they prefer that communication be directed to them. Some have argued that authoritarian leadership represents a rather pessimistic, negative, and discouraging view of others. Others would argue that authoritarian leadership is a much needed form of leadership. In many contexts, authoritarian leadership is used to give direction, set goals, and structure work. Authoritarian leadership has both pluses and minuses. On the positive side, it's efficient and productive. Authoritarian leaders give direction and clarity to people's work and accomplish more in a shorter period. Furthermore, authoritarian leadership is useful in establishing goals and work standards. On the negative side, it fosters dependence, submissiveness, and a loss of individuality. The creativity and personal growth of followers may be hindered. It's possible that, over time, followers will lose interest in what they're doing and become dissatisfied with their work. In addition, authoritarian leadership can become abusive leadership, where these leaders use their influence, power, and control for their personal interests or to coerce followers to engage in unethical or immoral activity. While the negative aspects of authoritarian leadership appear to outweigh the positive, it's not difficult to imagine context where authoritarian leadership would be preferred as terms of a style. Despite the negatives of authoritarian leadership, this form of leadership is common and necessary in many situations. The democratic leadership style strongly resembles the assumptions of theory Y. Democratic leaders treat followers as fully capable of doing work on their own. Rather than controlling followers, democratic leaders work with followers, trying hard to treat everyone fairly without putting themselves above followers. In essence, they see themselves as guides rather than dictators or directors. They give suggestions to others, but never with any intention of changing them. Democratic leaders do not use top-down communication. Instead, they speak on the same level as their followers. They listen to followers in supportive ways and assist them in becoming self-directed. In addition, they promote communication between group members and in certain situations are careful to draw out less articulate members of the group. The outcomes of democratic leadership are mostly positive. First, democratic leadership results in greater group member satisfaction, commitment, and cohesiveness. Second, under democratic leadership, there is more friendliness, mutual praise, and group-mindedness. Followers tend to get along with each other and willingly participate in matters of the group. Third, democratic leadership results in stronger worker motivation and greater productivity. People are motivated to pursue their own talents under the supportive structure of democratic leadership. Finally, under a democratic leader, group members participate more and are more committed to group decisions. The downside of democratic leadership is that it takes more time and commitment from the leader. Work is accomplished, but not as efficiently as if the leader were authoritarian. The laissez-faire leadership style is dissimilar to both Theory X and Theory Y. Laissez-faire leaders do not try to control followers as Theory X leaders do, and they do not try to nurture and guide followers as Theory Y leaders. Laissez-faire stands alone as a style of leadership. Some have labeled it non-leadership. The laissez-faire leader is a nominal leader who engages in minimal influence. As the French phrase implies, laissez-faire leadership means the leader takes a hands-off, let-it-ride attitude towards followers. These leaders recognize followers but are very laid back and make no attempt to influence their activities. Under laissez-faire leadership, followers have the freedom to do pretty much anything they want and do it whenever they want. Laissez-faire leaders make no attempt to appraise or regulate the progress of followers, which may be due to various reasons, including disinterest, reluctance to take a stand, or limited positional authority. Given it involves nominal influence, what are the effects of laissez-faire leadership? This type of leadership tends to be productive primarily in negative outcomes. The major effect is that very little is accomplished under a laissez-faire leader. Because people are directionless and at a loss to know what to do, they tend to do nothing. Given complete freedom can also be a result in an atmosphere that most followers find chaotic. Followers prefer some direction. Left completely on their own, they become frustrated. As a result, productivity goes down. Sometimes, however, the lack of leadership from above can result in frustration that spurs followers to act and create positive outcomes. In addition, people who are self-starters, who excel at individualized tasks, and don't require ongoing feedback may prefer working under laissez-faire leaders. It gives them the freedom to be themselves. While there are a few situations where laissez-faire leadership is effective, in a majority of situations it proves to be unsuccessful and unproductive.